θα προσπαθούμε να χρησιμοποιήσουμε το πρέσβη για την παρουσιάζει μου και θα συνεχίσω στα αγγλικά γιατί έχω το Γάρι και το Βέρ που είναι οι συναδελφοί μου και ξέρουν πολύ καλύτερα το θέμα από μένα και θέλω να έχουν την ευκαιρία να καταλαβαίνουν από πρώτη γλώσσα τι λέω, να μπορέσουν να διαφωνήσουν ή να πούνε τα πράγματα που δεν ξέρω ή που θα ξεχάσω να σας πω. Δεν έχουμε πολύ χρόνο. I will continue in English. My presentation is referring to a publication we launched earlier this year about the national prevention systems. Mixing English and Greek. The goal, Stoffers, is that we are proposing, we are working, and Ari and Ver are some of our closest colleagues and experts working with us for years in the area of prevention, among others, is to apply and use some kind of systems thinking in the way we look and we address prevention. The idea is before it was very topical, very isolated, and I think one of the difficulties we always have, it's a big challenge, is what are the methods that are working, what are the methods that may produce negative effects or unexpected negative effects, and also the issue of evaluation. So we have been working for many years in the center. It's Gregor Burkhardt, who was in the EMCDDA, is the Mr. Prevention of the agency. So what I will summarize here is what we have in the publication that is showing not a perfect model where everything works and everything is known, but better or rather to integrate the key factors or key issues that is necessary to integrate in our approach of prevention. And this is why we speak about the system in the terms of the theory of systems that started with the Von-Bertalan field, but also with the School of Palo Alto. Myself, I'm a systemic, in the previous life, I'm a systemic therapist and followed the training from the School of Milano. So that's looking at the things in the way they interact. It doesn't mean we pretend we control every part of the system, but it also acknowledges that if you look at the things through a system approach, first you need to become more modest about what you pretend are your successes, and you need to be more mindful about the other factors that have an influence. And just to finish, because that's a point that I could mention for each of the key concepts I will share quickly with you, is the fact that when we work on those elements, we will also, and we underline in the technical paper, in the technical report, the fact that many of those problems, they are not specific to drugs or substance use. And therefore, to look at the things through a systemic approach allows also to understand that maybe we need some more coordination or convergence between different programs and the different approaches, because on the field, for the human beings who are confronted with some of the problems, and with all those who are working in that area, those problems, they are not isolated. It's the human being with a specific problem. I give you a very short experience. In 1990, with colleagues in Belgium, we started the first harm reduction programs and activities. And we had a meeting with some street workers in Brussels. And we tried to speak with them about AIDS, HIV, and overdose prevention among drug users. And first of all, those guys that live in the streets. And I learned from the Netherlands that street workers, the real ones, they are never in an office. They are people who live in the move. They have a different way of working and of living and of thinking. And so we were trying to convince them that public health was important, and they told us, well, we don't give of public health. And we found that very shocking. They said, no, because when I'm in the street and I see someone in the street who is homeless, I need to find somewhere for that person to sleep tonight. And the other issues, they come after. So if we can speak about alcohol, or also the problem that some of the places those people could sleep, a shelter, the rules are you cannot drink or you cannot have consumed. So, and for people who have a very heavy problem just to be clean, if they could manage to be so easily clean, maybe they would not be in the same situation. So you need some flexibility for some of the responses. But this shows that the reality on the field is complex. Human being is complex. So to try to approach through a systemic approach is something that can help to integrate better different approaches and to be sure about what we try to address finally. So when we speak about one of those dimensions we explore through the systemic approaches, how is the prevention and the strategic decision making. In many countries, strategic decision making about prevention or prevention programs or policy is taken at central level, but there are many instances in which for funding it is more at local or at regional level. There are a lot of questions also, and it depends. There is not one single way to address this. Which sectors or ministries are cooperating and are providing that funding? And it happens in many cases that there is not enough cooperation, and that what one ministry will support is not support or is even sometimes blocked by the other. And one key issue in many countries is the relationship between the Ministry of Education and the schools from the one hand, and all the others who want to work with the schools. And to be honest, sometimes the schools, they complain and say, guys, we also need to teach. So if you come every week and propose some different intervention, we should still be left with the possibility to do our work as teachers. So there is no easy solution for that. The question of research and quality control is very important, and these are some of the questions we present in the technical report that highlight some of the key questions about, for instance, is there a guidance and advice to the local that is provided to the local level? How do decision makers or how do practitioners select which kind of program, which kind of approach? And also, I want to highlight development of interventions, but also the evaluation of the interventions. If we speak about the interventions, there are different categories. I know there are still people who speak about primary, secondary, tertiary prevention, but honestly, this is belonging to the past, so we need to update. And there are two ways to update. Technical paper can help, and the European Guide on Health and Social Responses provides second support. Why? Because we have different kinds of programs for prevention. We have the manualized program, that are the programs that have been precisely described, which you have clear rules and methods and principles for implementation. That makes easier the follow-up and the evaluation. That gives or not some flexibility for the implementation. It's not used everywhere, and there is nowhere that will tell you that that's the only way to do. The question is, how do you articulate to the needs analysis and to the evaluation and to the other intervention? Then you have the environmental policies that are extremely important too, and then prevention services. For instance, I remember that in Greece, despite the crisis and the austerity plan, you still have, less than before, but you have some prevention centers from Okada, for instance. So I said a few things here. You have an idea of some of the countries where manualized programs are considered important. Again, the countries where it doesn't appear to be considered as important doesn't mean they are bad countries, because you will see there's different approaches. Some others, they complement and they use different combinations. Environmental policies, they are very important also, and we see that, I would tend to say that you will see in the report that it presents that if you can combine, when relevant, some manualized intervention, but certainly with the environmental prevention action and initiative, you have a convergence of the means for having better chains to increase the efficiency of your prevention program or for your prevention strategy. It doesn't mean that there is somewhere in the report where we say the question what works and what is magic, it doesn't work and it is not magic. But you can have better results, but you need to be modest and you need to be clear about the results you try to reach. And here, for instance, you see that how is the proportion of the importance, perceived importance of manualized programs versus local authorities. And you see that there are countries where the importance is more or less similar, or others where the focus is on one or other of those initiatives. In the report, we speak a lot about the work at community level, and I use the word community because others also spoke about community. I think that's a very important word, because I think one of the biggest challenges we have in Europe today, without speaking about the rest of the world, is to restore the place of the human being and the community. And there is too much room taken for hate, for exclusion, for LGBT, women, journalists, drug users, everybody who thinks or behaves differently, and it's important. And those programs, they contribute also to restore or to support the community as a community. There are two different elements that are extremely important to our forces. What do we do? How do we prepare the workforce, those who are going to implement those programs? In many countries, there is no accreditation, there is no model, there is no standard. At the same time, you cannot have a certificate for everything. So you need to articulate different means and different resources. But certainly, the training background, the influence of the training and the professional position, and the ideological bias, for instance, are having an influence. Also, how is organized, who are the main service providers, how is it organized? Is it the state that is playing the bigger role? In some countries or some regions it is the case, even with local authorities. NGOs are also very important. The problem with NGOs, the tendency is sometimes to feel so independent that even if they are national standards from the government, if they believe they know better, they will not necessarily follow. So we need to find a system that allows a correct implementation. There is a list about possible biases. Just a last word about the moderators, and I will finish here. What we describe and present in the report, the moderators, it's the term we use to describe the main factors that in most of the cases the prevention program they do not control or they cannot change them, but they have an influence or indirect interaction, and this is why we speak through and we try to look at it through a systemic approach, that they are in permanent interaction and they are conditioning positively or not what you can expect as an impact from a different set of intervention. And not only I'm looking for Lion's Quest, and if I am a Lion's Quest man, this means I am against community work. It has nothing to do. It can be that in fact we need both. Not at the same time, maybe not with the same person. The harshness of drug legislation is an important factor, and we see that the harshest is the policy. It doesn't mean it gets better result, including for prevention. Alcohol and tobacco policies combined with the environmental policies are playing a very important role. And then I want to finish with 2 points that usually we don't speak too much about. Social inequality, like I think it can be described with something that is the Gini index. I'm not the specialist, I learned yesterday what it is. So the social inequality, there is a background of research that shows that the higher the index of social inequality, the higher the possibility or the probability to have different problems, including substance use and abuse, and social capital that is not necessarily part of the future. One of the elements that are covered by social capital is how people feel trust inside the family, in the building or in the place they live or in the country as such. And for instance, we know that in the Nordic countries or Scandinavian countries, the concept of social capital is much stronger, and the idea of the feeling of trust towards the other people of even the family or around the place where you live or you are working is much higher than in other countries. And if we, again, all those analyses, they are not made to provide a kind of a diagnosis about which is the country that does it well or wrong. The question is, when we try to see what are the different elements and how can we use or avoid or take into account, that is one of the elements important. For instance, when we speak about the inequality and the social capital, and I finish on this my conclusion. The point is, there are fantastic interventions in the community in Greece, Italy, Spain. But Spain, you have something that exists only in Spain. It's called Junta de Vecinos. Junta de Vecinos is kind of association of people who live in the neighborhood. So, you have therapeutic communities in many countries. Not everywhere you can have the association of parents or the clients of the community to be very active. I met many of them in Italy, for instance. Pierre can tell you if it exists in Belgium, I don't know. But in other countries, people are just relying on the key nucleus of the family. They don't have many relationships even with the other members of the extended family. So there are kind of intervention that cannot work. So the key for us, the key for the system approach that we are promoting together with the other European experts is to try to be a bit more comprehensive in the way we envision the situation and the need for intervention. And also what we highlight in the report is the fact that we need to take into account some data collection about, we need data collection not only for the evaluation, but for the analysis of needs. And I think frequently the surveys, in many cases, they have not been tailored to help identify the needs for intervention. So it doesn't mean that school surveys, for instance, are bad, certainly not, but they are not necessarily the only tool or the perfect tool to make a needs analysis. So you need to make sure that when you use some data or some survey to say there is a need in the community, you need to make sure that you base this on the correct data and the